Welcome to the Productive Agent Podcast. Thanks for joining us. My name is Tony Ruiz. I'm the founder and host of the Productive Agent Podcast and Facebook group. Today, I'm joined by my good friend, Mark Chambers. Thanks for being here and welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. If you haven't checked out our podcast before, this is our third podcast so far. So I encourage you to go check out our first two shows where we discuss the purpose of the podcast and how it came to be. Our goal of this podcast and the group is to motivate, inspire, encourage, and educate those working in the industry or those thinking about getting into the real estate industry. Today is our first ever interview podcast, and we're super excited to have Mark Chambers here. He is a two-time Icon agent with eXp Realty. He has his broker's license where he has held the position of managing broker for South Texas with eXp. He's also a Platinum Top 50 finalist, a certified mentor, and one of my go-to mentors and good friend, Mark. So thank you so much for joining us as the inaugural guest of the show.
Hey, I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Awesome. Well, cool. Well, let's get started. We want to know more about you. That's the whole purpose. And the interview is really the spotlight's on you. So tell us a little bit about your story pre-real estate life.
Okay. I am a native Texan. I was born in Fort Worth, and I lived there for the first part of my life. And then we moved to Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I spent 8 years there, mostly elementary and early middle school. And then we moved back to Dallas, Fort Worth. So a little bit of a change there. That was a great experience as a kid. And then I went to college. I went to Texas Tech University and majored in music education. I was a trumpet player and wanted to be a band director. That was my passion. And so I did that. That's what brought me to San Antonio, was a job. I started off at Ed White Middle School, teaching middle school band. Had some great success there with my middle school band, and then moved to Robert E. Lee High School, which was a very well-established school, same school district in north central San Antonio. And then I opened up Reagan High School when it was built, and I was the first band director there, and I was there for 8 years. 2 years as the director of drum corps for the Crossman Drum Corps International. Some people may know of it. It's kind of like professional marching band.
Yeah.
And then I became the senior fine arts director for the Northeast Independent School District. So mostly over music, band, choir, orchestra, elementary music. Yeah. Did that for 6 years, I believe. And always had a passion for real estate in those years. My wife and I kind of fell into investment homes. We bought a new home, kept our home, and turned it into an investment property, and I caught the bug. Okay. And we had a realtor at that time who wasn't really proactive on our behalf. And I thought, I'm going to get my real estate license, and I can do this. And so I did get my license, but I just really loved it. And began to do it part-time my last year as a fine arts director, and then just decided, I want to take the plunge and just jump headfirst into it. So that was kind of the progression. So I had a previous career of 25 years in education. Wow. It was a great career, had great success, but I've never looked back. Love real estate.
Yeah. We didn't meet really until you were like the fine arts director. I mean, I knew of you at Reagan High School. I was at Churchill, and we were never really that close. I mean, you were like a boss to me, and so I looked up to you and respected you on many levels, but it's really cool to have connected on this level as we've gotten deeper into our real estate carears and grown on that.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Very, very cool. How many properties did you have at your peak? How many properties do you have now, or how many properties did you buy along the way?
Total of 4.
Okay.
So I've never had more than 4. I have 3 right now.
Okay.
So I only have 1 rental property, and then we have a home in Taos, New Mexico, which is
nice.
My wife's love. She loves that house, and I do too.
Yeah.
And then we have our main home in San Antonio.
Cool. And you said how long you been in real estate? Did you say 8 years?
8 years.
Yeah, 8 years. Okay. Very cool. So take us back, if you can. Think back to your very first year. Your very first year, a lot of us are newer agents or figuring out things in the first couple of years. What did you do to start, say, your first 6 months? What did that look like? If you could take us back.
Yeah, my first 6 months were probably not typical just because I was still in my old role. So I got my license. In the first 6 months, I was still in a full-time job. So I was kind of getting my feet wet, if you know, so to speak. But in August of that year, I decided to just go full time. That was pretty scary. You hear all the time it takes about 90 days for whatever you're doing to manifest itself, and that's really true. So I really began to. I had a coach at the time, somebody that previous student of mine who was very successful in real estate. So I decided to kind of hook up with them and get some direction, great direction, and I followed it, and it really began to pay off. So I can talk a little bit about what that was, but that would be when I turned full-time. It would be my second 6 months. And then my first full year in real estate, where I did it the whole year, I sold 36 homes at Keller Williams, City View.
Yeah.
And we were off and running. So.
Yeah. Yeah. What do you equate your success? I mean, 36 homes in your first full year, like how the heck did that happen? Like that's not easy to do. That's way more than most people. How'd you do that?
I have a history in all my professions, in all my careers, of really being able to find people who do this well. So if it was band, it was band. Way back in the day, I used to go to Spring High School. They were winning all the state championships, and I became a student of Bill Watson. Sure. And same thing in real estate. I just began to surround myself and reach out to people that were high producers. And they all had a lot of different things in common. So I would say the biggest thing and the advice given to me was I approached real estate as soon as I left my previous career, just like a career. Got up every day and worked as if it were, a full-time job. Yeah. So I think that's the biggest thing, is just really, there's a lot of detail as to what I did in that. Sure. But for the most part, just in summary, it was just treat it like a real job.
Yeah. Yeah, that's real job, real time pay.
I think a lot of people fall in because you don't have a boss, so to speak. It's super easy to just fall into a place of, I can do that tomorrow. So
yeah, for sure. Is there anything, it sounds like you had a very successful first year. Is there anything that you would have done differently? Looking back now, is there anything that you would have added or done a little bit differently?
Yeah, I think so. I think I should have known this from my teaching career. So in teaching, we all know that we had teachers who were super high energy, the disc profile, high, D's or whatever. Yeah. And we have teachers that weren't, and we had great teachers on both sides of that. Same thing with real estate. I would say I would have been more authentic. I think early on, I tried to just emulate others who maybe weren't who I was. So looking back on it, I would probably try to find what my groove was a little bit better. I found that now. I kind of know what works for me. Sure. But when you're first starting, you tend to try a little bit of everything. So
sure. So you sold 36 homes. Is that your biggest year? Have you done more than that? I'm assuming your price point has probably gone up since that first year, so that makes a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. Last year I did 42 homes. Those are my two biggest years, last year and my first year. Okay. So interestingly enough, year two, not as much. And I made some changes in terms of, I started my own group. So when I started my own group, independent broker, I found that I sold less and I supervised more. So production went down a little bit, still had a good year, but production definitely went down. And then I moved to a different broker. I went to Sotheby's International. Yep. And that year was a good year, but not my strongest. And I had a lot of things that went on. My dad died that year. We were trying to get my mom situated. So a lot going on that was a distraction. But I still had a really good year. Yeah. And then when I moved to EXP, it just kind of took off from there, just because my focus became right back on.
Yeah, yeah. Well, cool. What is one thing that you've done in your business? You said you made some shifts from time to time that made a massive improvement in your business. Maybe you started off really hot. You still did well. You transitioned into the independent broker. You transitioned into Cooper Sotheby's. You went into EXP and kind of turned it back on. What was that shift that you did to get back to that level?
Yeah, I think after having my own group, and at one point there were 12 of us, 11 agents and one admin, gave me the clarity of coming back and focusing in on just my business. And I probably, the main thing was dedicating a block of time blocking, I would say, to do income producing type activities. So prior to that, I kept my days kind of ranged from what was the hot button of the day. Okay, I've got an inspection today, or I've got a repair amendment, or I'm about to list a house. And so I now am more intentional and purposeful about when the to-do list takes place, and when the time where I just block off time to do whatever it is I need to do to push my business forward. And that was kind of the aha moment where I think it really kicked into gear.
This might align with that, and maybe there's some more that you can share. But what kind of advice would you give an agent that's making a good living, 10, 12, 15 houses a year, doing all right, but really wants to get to that next level and achieve like icon status and is just selling quite a bit? What piece of advice would you give that person?
Yeah, I think the most simple advice is to be a person of action. Just take action, massive action, whatever that is. But for me, what I tell a lot of newer agents is make a database, put everybody you know in the database, get all of their information. If you don't have their information, contact them. It's a great opportunity to contact them, let them know that you're doing real estate, and then systematically touch those people. If you'll just keep yourself accountable to your database, even if it's small, it's going to, there's other ways to generate leads, and those are great, and those are good to do. But just start with intentional working of your database. Okay. And most people don't do that. And I've met with some young agents, fairly young, but they've been doing business for a little while, and some of them don't even have a database. So, and I get that, but I think that's the most important thing.
Yeah, no, I like that. We've talked about this before because we're pretty close, and I'll call you up if I'm feeling low or in a slump. And real estate is ebb and flow, and sometimes it's great, sometimes it's slow. You've expressed those feelings with me as well. For somebody that's feeling like they're in a slump, what is a recommendation that you would give them to kind of snap them out of it?
Yeah, I mean, I would say probably every year I go through a little bit of a slump. And as you mentioned, it can be a great high. It can be you can get down. I mean, you'll have a deal fall apart, or two or three fall apart, and it can be very discouraging. But mindset is everything in real estate. So it is the one industry that I really had to work each day before I start the day. Not that the industry is, something that's just terrible, but just for me, I have to work every morning to put my mind in the right place and to be in the positive quadrant, if you will. Yeah. So I spend a reasonable amount of time just in a routine to start my day, especially if I'm in a slump. Yeah. Be active, get your body moving, get out and be around other people. Be around other people that support you, and each day start off with positive affirmation and just work to change that state of emotion.
Yeah, I got that advice early on, and I didn't understand it. I didn't grasp it. I didn't realize how important it was. Yeah. But the longer you do this, you realize it makes a massive difference.
And that goes for any career, any industry that you're in, any part of your life. But it helps me a lot with real estate.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your favorite moment that you have experienced? Obviously, you've had a lot of transactions, a lot of clients. I'm sure some stories stick with you that you'll never forget. But do you have a favorite moment that comes to mind that you've experienced in real estate?
I have a couple.
Yeah.
They're completely different.
Yeah.
In real estate.
Okay.
In real estate. One I would say would be the first time I got the Icon Award.
Yeah.
Because to get that award, you have to cap, and then you have to do a certain amount of production after you cap. Yeah. And you have to do it within one calendar year, or you start over. And I iconed my first time the last day before my cap date reset.
Yeah.
And it was just so exhilarating. I had a deal close that day, and just working with the people in the broker's office to make sure that that deal closed. And all the people that were helping me, it was almost like when we realized it closed and the transaction had been finalized, and I knew that I had achieved it, but I should say we, because people helped me.
Sure.
Was an incredible moment.
Yeah.
And as you know, with EXP, what comes with that.
Yeah.
So
Huge.
Huge. So that was, and like anything else, the second icon, it happened sooner, but it wasn't as exciting. I mean, it was great, but that was a really great one. I think another one was, I realized how diverse my business is, and it just made me smile, was I went to the south side of San Antonio to help a former teacher who had an investment home that had been his home in his childhood, to look at it and possibly get it listed. It was in a really tough part of town. And he had been renting it. The renters hadn't taken very good care of it. And as we walked through, it was just not in great shape. So I just remember his, how I was able to help him just take some of the edge off by saying, hey, look, this is what we need to do. We can do this. Have a handyman come in and do these things. We're going to stage it well. It's going to be fine. We'll take care of it. And him just being very grateful. I had a buyer appointment in Olmos Park at a $1.27 million home 30 minutes after I left him. And I just remember driving from one place and helping him to the other, completely opposite, a young couple who ended up buying that home. And I just remember thinking, this is just so crazy, the extreme. And they were at a different place in their lives. They were so excited. They were going to have a baby. And they were both happy in just different ways. And I just remember smiling on the way home going, this is just awesome that I get to do all of this. Yeah. So
it reminds me of teaching a little bit, the reward of teaching, and you bust your butt, and like the reward of the great performance. It's like so rewarding, and it's very similar in this way. It's different. It's transactional, but hopefully you're building those relationships and you're able to experience those highs.
Yeah, for sure. People. I mean, it is transactional, but it's the transaction that is really important to most people's lives. Yeah. It's their biggest, asset. So it's very cool to be able to help in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, back to ebb and flow. There's some things that are very frustrating about this business as well. Yeah. Is there anything that you really don't like about real estate, or that's super frustrating?
Yeah, I think, how do I say this? Every deal is as smooth or not smooth as the person on the other side of the transaction. So I not often, but occasionally will think, why are we making this so difficult? And why does this have to be such a, I don't want to use the word battle, but sometimes agents approach it that way.
Yeah.
And the reality is we're just all trying to represent our clients the best we can. And there's an in-between usually. So I do think one of my skills from back in my administration days, I used to facilitate what teachers needed and what administration thought. And I used to try to bring the two together. I try to do that. But that is not fun to me always. Sure. I'm going through one right now that's like, can we just get through this? So I think that's probably the most frustrating part. But that's any job. Yeah. People are people. Sure. They have different personalities. So it's just really understanding of how you can work with the other person.
Yeah, I've expressed that with a couple of my agents as well. It's like in band, you have 300 people, students that you're working with, and you don't necessarily have to be one-on-one with each one of them. You can have people help with whatever. But in here, it's like you have to deal with that person on the other side. You have to deal with that client and, provide them and fiduciary duty. So it's kind of, you're forced to deal with some of that sometimes.
And I mean, it's generally good, but occasionally it's not so fun.
Sure, absolutely. So you've kind of transitioned, you've held the position of managing broker, South Texas. You've moved on to back into just selling real estate. Is there something that you're currently working on that you're really excited about?
Yeah, I am. I think the managing broker experience was unbelievable. Mm-hmm. It just was eye-opening for me. And it really pushed me. I'm glad I did it. I did it for 4 months, and it pushed me out of my comfort zone. Yeah. And I've always been the kind of person that's okay to take a leap into something different and be uncomfortable. Sure. But man, this was a great experience. And I learned, I've never been a cold caller, I've never done business. As we kind of talked about, sphere is kind of my thing. Yep. But with that, you're talking to people that you don't know all the time. You're having to call other brokers over issues that are going on in the state. So it was interesting. But what I loved most about that was teaching. So yes, I've been a teacher before, but on the 6A marching band platform, you've got a staff, 300 and 360 kids. You manage a lot, and you do teach, but this is a little bit different. I really enjoyed teaching. I feel like I've now gained enough. I talked about when I first started, I had a coach who was a former student of mine.
Yep.
He was such a great teacher, but I was the student. I didn't know anything. So I really feel like that's my next thing that I want to spend time doing is just meeting with people, helping them, and teaching real estate. So I'm excited to do that now.
Yeah, no, talking to you and looking forward to what we're trying to put together here for other agents. It's really exciting. So I'm excited to see what happens going forward. Those are our real estate questions, but I'd like to wrap up our interview with just some random fun questions.
Okay.
So it's totally off the top. But what's the best book you've ever read? I think I know your answer.
Yeah, you do.
I'm interested.
You do, because I tell you this all the time. People are going to think I'm crazy, but it's called You Are a Badass.
Oh, okay.
It's by...
That wasn't the one I was thinking, but yeah.
Oh, was it not? Oh,
But
you
I've
thought I was
heard
going to say
great things.
Ninja Real Estate is what you
No,
thought.
I thought you were going to say the one thing.
Well, that's great. There's so many great ones.
Yeah.
All those are some of my favorite books. No, I think You Are a Badass is one of my favorite by Jen Sincero, and I'll tell you why. And if you get a chance to do the audiobook, she narrates it.
Okay.
And she's so funny and so great. But she really takes a lot of our favorite books, like Think and Grow Rich, all of these great masterpieces, and she puts it in a format that's today.
Okay.
And just kind of cuts and gives so many personal real life examples and throws humor into it. And I'm pretty simple.
Yeah.
I like, I've got some friends that like to dissect everything and are very intellectual at that. I just like relating to somebody who's gone through stuff. And I've listened to that book 3 or 4 times.
Okay.
And it's just fantastic. So that's a mindset book. Yeah. Definitely a mindset book.
Cool.
But in terms of other things, The One Thing by Gary Keller, well, several people wrote that book, but with Gary Keller, that's a great book. That's the book that you asked me earlier where I started time blocking. And really, what's the one thing? I do a whole thing at the beginning of the year.
Yep.
Goal setting based on the one thing. So that's a great one too. Ninja Real Estate is a great one if you want to talk about working a sphere and building your business. Yeah. So all those are awesome. But if I had to narrow it to one, it would be Jen Sincero's. Yeah.
Cool. I like that. I think my wife has read it or listened to it. I think it's on our Audible, so I'm going to have to start that up soon.
Yeah, you won't be disappointed.
Cool. What do you like to do on your days off? I know that I was envy of you, when you went into real estate. I'm like, this guy seems to be having so much fun and all these things. I'm over here teaching band all day. And but what do you like to do on your days off?
Yeah, so you know me, I'm a beach pool guy.
Yeah.
I love to be by water. Mm-hmm. But I also like to be outdoors a lot. Yeah. But I also love entertainment type stuff. So I love to go out to a nice restaurant. Sure. I like to travel. Yep. And just, do all the cool things that we have in San Antonio. So I'm most people will say I love to golf. That would be you. As you know, I'm not so great at that. I love to go golfing with you and driving the cart.
It's
and,
fun.
Having cocktails. But but I do enjoy like going out to dinner with my family or with friends in a place with great atmosphere. And
what are a couple great restaurants that you like to go to?
Oh yeah, there's quite a few. I like Cappy's. It's one of my favorites here.
Good one. Yeah.
Mexican food, I love Paloma Blanca. Okay. Always got to sit outside.
Yeah. Best
margaritas in town. We tried the new one, Kiriki. It's the old Josephine. We tried that the other night for the first time. Atmosphere is amazing.
Did Josephine Street close down?
No, not Josephine Street. The thing right next to the old Liberty Bar. Sorry, Liberty Bar.
Okay. Yeah.
The one that was leaning it's amazing.
Oh, yeah.
It's right by Grayson.
Yep.
Grayson's another one. I love that. Yep. Anything down at the Pearl, pretty much.
Sure.
I love.
Yeah.
I love Bigo on the Banks. I love Bliss. Could go on. It sounds like all I do is go out to eat. But no, those are all pretty much inside 410, urban San Antonio is there's some great restaurants, and
Cool.
love to be down there and just hang out.
So your wife is a composer, music composer,
She
and,
is.
and you have this big band background. What's your favorite type of music?
Believe it or not, I'm very eclectic. Like I don't like stuff from my own generation, which is kind of weird because everyone else in my generation loves. Other than a few things, like I grew up with Journey in Boston.
Sure.
I love that, but I like more contemporary stuff, and I like all genres of music. I like contemporary pop. I like some rap. I like Eminem. I like some contemporary country.
Yeah.
I like a little bit of everything.
Just depends on the mood.
You know what it is for me, and my wife makes fun of this. Again, simple. It's all about the chord. Being a music guy, you can relate. It's all about the chord progression and how it makes me feel.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what genre of music it is. It's how it makes me feel.
Yeah.
And occasionally the lyrics, will get to me too. But it's just about the groove and the feel, and it can be from any kind of background genre of music. So.
Well, cool. Well, tell everybody how they can get in contact with you. Facebook, Instagram, email. How can they get in contact with you if they have any questions for you?
Yeah, I'm on Facebook. Just look Mark Chambers, San Antonio. Probably put EXP. It'll pop up.
Yeah.
I'm on Instagram. I don't do as much on Instagram. Do a little bit here or there. I think it's J Mark Chambers. It used to be under my business page, but I've changed it. My daughter changed it for me.
There you go.
And yeah, my email's mark.chambers@exprealty.com. If you ever want to reach out, you can always get me there.
Well, awesome. I just want to thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed the interview, and there's a lot of great nuggets that all of us can take away from this. I look forward to listening back to it myself. But if you enjoyed this content, then here's some call to action for you. Go subscribe to the show and give us a rating. Leave us a review. That really helps us grow. But what helps us grow more is for you to go out and share this with another real estate agent and anybody that you know that's thinking about getting into real estate. Invite them to join our movement. Of course, this is an extension of our Facebook group called The Productive Agent. Mark is an admin, as well as Alan, on that group. And on there, you'll find our weekly Zoom trainings every Thursday at 2 p.m. So we'll be doing Zoom tomorrow. There'll be a link up tomorrow morning. Also on there are 50 plus videos of past trainings. Some of them you have done as far as goal setting and stuff like that. We also have motivational posts. We have event announcements. Last week, Mark hosted Coffee and Conversations here in town. Had a great turnout. That was awesome. I missed that one, but I'm looking forward to get to the next one. Next week, we're going to be doing our monthly happy hour. So we post about that. And then once a month, we do live trainings, which is coming up next week with JJ Garena. On there, you won't find any spam. You won't find any advertisements of open house and new listings coming up. We monitor everything and make sure that it just fits our vision. All are welcome. It's not attached to any brokerage. So follow us on Instagram at The Productive Agent Podcast, or my personal page is Tony V. Ruiz. We're also on TikTok at The Productive Agent, or my personal one is at tonyruiz.realtor. We do have a YouTube channel, which this video will be going up if you want to watch us. The channel is The Productive Agent Podcast, and we also have weekly trainings being posted there. My personal Facebook page is Tony Ruiz. Reach out if you have any questions. Let's connect and share and grow. We thank you for joining us and hope you enjoyed the content. And now let's get out there and go produce.